Hello and welcome to yet another episode of 20 Somethings. My name is Michael. I'm joined here with Macy, Brian, Lionel, a pretty much regular but still kind of special guest, Amelia, and then we have our actual, for real special guest, Elias, who is joining us today. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here, and thank you, Elias, for coming onto the Zoom and not messing up on where it was yesterday or anything. We have some interesting topics tonight. Obviously, there's been this overarching theme we've been talking about since we started, which is COVID. We're going to go in depth about different things about that. We're going to be talking about the election, also an overarching theme. But to start us off, Lionel, I know you love it. Let's get a little update on the election. What's going on?
Thank you, Michael. We're in a pretty surreal kind of liminal phase for this election because since Biden was declared the winner, not a whole ton has happened, and usually a lack of news would be no news, but this is actually historic what we're seeing right now because Donald Trump is refusing to accept Biden as the winner and is basically declaring that all of this is fake, that's a fraudulent election, that it's all the Democrats' faults, even in red states like Georgia where Biden managed to win. So it's kind of like a surreal nightmare. It's kind of like being awake in a nightmare. I can certainly say that it's extremely tiring for me just as a citizen. I am still someone who is extremely privileged, so I can't imagine how it feels for people who are more directly threatened by the Trump government. And there's some very scary stuff going on too, as in Trump firing top Pentagon officials and replacing them with loyalists, which definitely calls to mind something of a fascist military coup. So that's really what's going on. I'd like to know everybody else's thoughts on that here, and especially what I want to ask everybody, or for everybody to respond to rather, is do you think the election was legitimate? Why or why not?
Well, Lionel, I think it's legitimate. I've seen a lot of, funny tweets out there, a lot of things that was like, if we rigged the election, Mitch McConnell certainly wouldn't have been reelected. And a lot of people who were on the settle for Biden train were like, we would have picked somebody else. So no, I don't think it's rigged. I think we knew that there was going to be this backlash, when we were in the debates and Trump refused to condemn white supremacy and told all the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. That was a terrifying moment, I think, for everybody. And now we're just kind of waiting to see how it all plays out and hope that it doesn't turn into a civil war, which I know we've talked about in previous weeks. So it's definitely a scary time to sort of see how things unravel. A lot of unraveling happening, but that's what I think.
Now, for everybody else, one thing I want to ask you too is, does anybody here feel threatened on any kind of level by politics going on, regardless of your views?
What do you mean?
I want to talk do you feel workplace hostility? Are you afraid of domestic terrorism, like being attacked by extremists? Do you feel worried about your rights being rolled back by the Trump government? As a citizen, I'm just talking about individuals here. For all of you, do any of you feel like you're in danger?
I think it'd be stupid to assume that we're not, or that it's impossible, I guess, to rule it out completely. You weren't here last week, Lionel, but I got some hate mail from being vocal. So I guess it's possible for being, those of us that are vocal about our feelings about Trump, or a lot of, I've said this I think every episode, someone has to keep tally now, but it's not really politics, it's human rights, a lot of the issues that we're dealing with nowadays. And so, you have, I feel like personally, I felt like I have no choice but to be vocal. You mentioned privilege earlier, and I think that's a big part of it. I have to use my privilege to speak out for those who have the most to lose. And like I said, I got some not nice messages about it, but does that mean that I'm going to stop saying what I'm saying? No, I feel like I still need to say what I'm saying, but does that mean that I live in a very Republican town? Does that mean that, some people are going to come after me? I don't know, but it's kind of a chance we have to take. for me anyway. I don't want to like put words in anyone's mouth, but I definitely, that's where I'm at.
Going back to the election in 2016, I remember, obviously, not young, like, don't know what's going on, but young enough where I wasn't able to vote, maybe not as involved as I should have been, but still kind of, able to follow. I'm 16 years old. I can drive a car. I can follow politics. But I remember just at school, I remember the divide between like teachers and between students who had opinions. And even at that age, maybe we can kind of chalk that up to immaturity. I'm not sure. But it is something that now that I'm old enough to vote and I have a job and I'm in a workplace with people of different backgrounds, all, ethnic, socioeconomic, anything. I get kind of timid and I get kind of scared to voice my opinions because I am worried that, it'll either maybe destroy a friendship and it might cause drama. It might cause conflict to a point where I'm not able to do my job as effectively as I should be doing it. So that's one aspect that I'm concerned of. I think I mentioned this last week, but sorry if I'm repeating myself. Elias, I know you're down there in the corner. I can see you. I gotta rope you in a little bit. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I mean, you again, thank you guys for having me. But you talk about the previous election and remembering people being divided then. I remember the same thing. We went to the same high school. A lot of people don't know this, but there was divide between not only students but teachers, administrators, and I just remember, I guess immaturity, isn't an excuse, but I remember being like, wow, this is really impacting a lot of people in ways that I had never seen before. Obviously, privilege brings a whole another, aspect to that, aware of that, but I just remember being like, wow, and I'm seeing these past 4 years, and then what's this led up to this election is just really, it kind of takes you back a little bit. Think about when you weren't aware of all this and what you were missing, and now everything that's happening now and what you can do as an individual to kind of help out in the way you see fit. It's just really interesting. And I do kind of know what you mean by, there's a fear for a lot of people to voice their opinions, even if they're not extreme. They just don't want to ruin whatever relationship that might impact. And that's the thing people don't know. And so it's very, very powerful. And I mean, that's all I can really say, but it's just something you got to be wary of. Yeah, that's for sure.
So obviously, like Elias said, we went to the same school, so you kind of got our input. Macy and Brian, I'm just curious, because I do find this very interesting. Back in the last election, did you guys, wherever you went to school, did you experience something similar? Do you know what we're talking about? And is it something that you can fast forward today, and are you still concerned about it?
I really experienced something similar. Obviously, like, back the last election, I obviously couldn't vote, and politics was always a very confusing topic to me because there's always so many details and so many like sub points with just the topic of politics. But like being now like in like being able to participate in this election now really like changed my view just in like probably not even the 4 years, like maybe less than 4 years, just being able to put my voice out there, but like kind of anonymously in a way, but in the same, like, it's hard to explain, like it's not anonymous, like putting like your opinion out there because like you're nervous about what people are going to say or do, but more of like just showing like through your actions, kind of knowing like what side you really would be on and everything. But yeah, I've experienced probably like the same exact thing in like my high school. I went to a high school in Rhode Island anyway, so like kind of like close together.
So let's see. I know like throughout my high school, I went to like private schools like for like 4 years, but when I was a senior, at a private high school, like no one like kind of really talk about politics, but like for immaturity wise, like you said, obviously I was sort of like a class kind of where I just kept recapping like the SNL debates. Like I remember like I would always play like the SNL debates from Trump and Hillary's, and I just react like how her waving, like Trump's like like all jokes like the Trump bingo, like honestly, like just I recap all of that, and it was just like because I didn't care for I that time at age I wasn't ready to vote yet, and so like it was pretty interesting how like all the jokes come out just to like, show like the real dems are like, oh, we just put one each other down so we can show who's like the better president leader. But looking at to this year's election, like it's pretty nerve-wracking to speak about your own opinions about who is like the better president. Cause like for me, like I get concerned like who like to talk about the president wise. Cause like well, to me, like I get concerned about this like at a church community because I go to church on Sundays, but it's just I know like a lot of Christians support Trump mainly because of his background, but like to me, like obviously it would be good if he didn't have a big mouth, in my opinion. If he kept his voice shut, then everything. But honestly,
He's frozen for me, at least. I don't know if he's
Let
frozen.
Brian go.
Yeah, he's frozen for me too.
Feel bad. He was such a good point too.
Oh.
Poor guy.
There he is.
wait,
You're back.
You just said.
You were frozen.
okay. Did anyone hear what I said or?
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
We lost you at one point, and I want you to finish because I have a question.
So pretty much what I said was that since I go to church on Sunday, like many Christians support Trump because Trump's background was a Christian. But the thing is that like if Trump didn't had a big mouth, if he didn't like if he kept his voice shut, then But to me, I said to myself like I didn't care who won because as long as the president makes our country better, then we should be good. So 'cause I'm not a person getting into arguments or anything.
I just gotta jump in real quick. I feel like if you're some kind of like really passionate Christian, you support Trump, you're probably stupid. Where in the Bible, where in Jesus's teachings does it talk about bragging for groping women without their permission, or for putting children in cages in their own excrement and separating them from their families? It's really interesting to me. It's terrible, but it's really interesting how identity politics can be used where Trump uses this kind of evangelical rhetoric and gets all these people to vote for him when really what he's actually doing in real life couldn't be further away from the Bible than anything else. So that's truly bizarre to me. And one thing I'll just throw in too, and I'm no huge Joe Biden fan. I'm like a settle for Biden, like I'll take this kind of guy. But I do think it's a good thing that he's going to be our second Catholic president. And I think that's something that, Christians and especially Catholics who may have thought about or may have supported Trump shouldn't forget, because we've only had JFK before, and there's still a lot of deep-rooted anti-Catholic bias in this country. So I think that'll be a very good thing.
Yeah, I agree with Lionel. Like, if you're voting for Trump because you're a Christian, you're probably the type of person that goes to church and then as soon as you leave, flip people off in the parking lot. Because if you want to get like religious, right? Like, and you want to say God loves everyone, then he's not going to take away rights of women or LGBTQ plus community. He's not going to take away, he's not going to be racist. There's a very good chance Jesus was not white. Let's start there. So I just think, and you want to say that if you're pro-life, that's great. But like, what about when people are alive? We need to be protecting people when they're alive, not just, before they're born. So I just think there's a lot of issues there, and that when it's almost like malicious of politicians to sort of take advantage of people who are going to follow them based on just their religion, when, they're not even really, living by those sort of moral compass. And then one other thing I wanted to say about this was the idea that, I know someone's going to say I'm dramatic, so I'll wait for it. But there's that quote from the Holocaust, like they came for the socialists. I was not a socialist. I didn't speak up. They came for the Jews. I wasn't a Jew. I didn't speak up. By the time they came for me, there's no one left to stand up. Like I think about that quote like every day of my life. And I just think, that's like the perfect embodiment of the privilege and why we need to stand up for people, even if, we're not the group or the privilege is being attacked. It doesn't matter. Like, you have to do it because you'd want the same done for you.
That was heavy. Does anyone have any response to that before I move on? I mean, there were some really good points made there by a lot of different people, and That's what we need. We need to be having these conversations, and we need to be able to feel like we can and that we're comfortable doing so. And I think that's one of the things that are so important during all of this. Like I had said, feeling timid about voicing your own opinions is something that we shouldn't have to feel. We're all allowed to have a voice as long as people are listening to other people. I mean, hey, more power to you. So I commend all of you for that. That was really awesome. I like that. But moving on to the next topic, because that took up some time, and I don't want to like, what animal do you, there's a saying, I was going to say, kick it, is it beat it to death? I don't know, ignore me. We're going to talk about COVID again. And
Great.
is it beating a dead horse? Is that what it is?
Yeah, but I don't know. We don't need to even.
Yeah, I don't know. I never know my sayings. Just ignore me. COVID. Obviously, like we've said, the holidays are coming up. There was a spike after Halloween. We're going into Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's going to lead into all these other holidays. You know, December is a very holiday-esque month. Do we think there's going to be a spike? Are people getting tested before they go home? What precautions are being taken? Let's just general discussion, COVID and holidays, go.
I'll start off. So I did some research on this. I know in the state of Rhode Island, there have been just also towns in general, like we all know about the potential shelter in place lockdown situation that Gina Raimondo really wants to put out there. And I've just like heard of like towns like Providence is requiring a permit for indoor gatherings of 10 people or more, where you have to show your social gathering plan. Central Falls has stopped all indoor dining themselves. They just came up as a town to just go back to takeout. Providence is also limiting gatherings to 5 people if you don't have a social distancing plan or if you don't have a permit. Gina Raimondo should be talking on WPRI basically all week around, I think it's 1 o'clock, correct me if I'm wrong. And there is talk that she will be putting the lockdown in place on Sunday, November 22nd. So she's been talking about a shelter in place for a long time now. And it just, in my opinion, it confuses me that if she really wanted to put a lockdown in effect, she would have done it already instead of milking the idea. So like, basically, this is how like I'm thinking. In my opinion, the longer she waits, the higher the numbers are going to be. Hence, the longer the lockdown will take. So like my question is, do you guys agree? Like, do you guys think if the longer she waits, obviously the spike is going to increase and the lockdown will be longer? And like, since holidays are coming, like how do you think she's supposedly going to put Rhode Island in a lockdown like right before Thanksgiving? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
I don't know what's going to happen. Do I think we need a lockdown again? Yes. Is that probably unpopular opinion? Yes. I just think I actually went and got like asymptomatic testing for COVID yesterday. I'm negative, guys. I just got my result. But basically there was like such a long line, and I was just thinking, you know, even when I had to make my appointment, like every location was booked. When I went, there was like a line, like the longest line. It like took up the whole hour slot just to like get through the line, and it's alarming, you know. I mean, as probably other people there were getting asymptomatic testing, just like students, teachers, yada yada, but someone I know, actually, after we spoke last week, a very close family friend of mine passed from COVID. So this has been kind of a rough week for me. And so, like, the fact that people are continuing to act like COVID's not a big deal, to act like everyone's invincible, like, or you live in, like, I live in the middle of the woods, basically, and, like, to think that, like, oh, I'm safe out here. Like, no, nobody's safe out anywhere, you know? It's germs and viruses, they don't discriminate. So I don't know how else we can spell it out for people. I think if, at this point, people just do what they want. So like a lockdown is like the only way to enforce it, basically.
Yeah, like it's interesting how you're saying about the lockdown, because like like 2 people that I know, like they're coming back from Florida from their school they're coming back to Rhode Island this week, and it's like I wonder like when they come back, like, you know, do they have to like quarantine for 2 weeks before heading back to school in Florida, because like they have to do this conference thing in December. But it's like, you know, like with COVID, like it's just ruined everyone's plan. It's like, my goodness, like this thing is like literally destroying our plans that we planned, like, you know, for Thanksgiving to see our friends here. It's like, you can't do anything because COVID just ruined our lives. Like, we're in a time where it's like we're stuck at home. We can't see anyone. Only places our parents getting strict with us because they don't like be careful because of COVID. Like, our only option is just going to work if you have a part-time job. So like, if the lockdown was in place, like hopefully it'll happen. Like, hopefully it should happen maybe earlier or before like people come back like from different colleges to come back to the island just for Thanksgiving week. And it's like, like it's just impossible to just see our lives are suffering through this time.
Yeah, I have mixed opinions on this. I do think that we can all benefit from a lockdown. I often forget that there are people who really just don't give a crap about this, because the people that I talk to and the people that I associate with are very careful and respectful and are following all these rules. But then there's groups of people who just, again, pretend like it doesn't exist, and it's unfortunate. But until your grandmother or your father or someone in your family dies from it, they're not going to realize that it's real. And that is scary. But then on the other aspect of this, I think there's a whole thing, I kind of term the phrase, I think it's like COVID scared. Like, I see it at work. I work with elderly people. It's an adult daycare. They get dropped off and picked up every day. And when the governor makes an announcement about how our numbers are spiking or about how poorly we're doing, the numbers we have at work, the people who come in, the clients, they drop drastically. And it's sad because a place like where I work, we're a nonprofit. The money we make is off of donations and, the day-to-day pay from families. And these are families that really, 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 really need the help, because if it wasn't for us, these family members would be in nursing homes. And I have this view of, if you're following the rules and you've been doing things right for however long we've been going at this, nothing's really changing, maybe pertaining to you. Like, yeah, it sucks and there's people that are being idiots and they're making the numbers go up. But if you're wearing your mask and you're social distancing, you're staying in groups less than 15, less than 10, less than 5, whatever, you're knowing who you're talking to, you're doing your contact tracing, it's not that hard. Pull it together. There really shouldn't be an issue. And yeah, I worry about maybe losing my job because I'm not going to have a place to work if we close. But at the same time, it's like, I have seen these people at work, these people that are not my family. I feel like I have closer relationships to them than I do with my own grandparents right now, because my grandma and grandpa are so scared for me to even sit like 15 feet away on a deck in their backyard. And that kind of breaks my heart and I feel bad. But again, it's driven from hearing what's going on in the media, seeing these numbers spiking, and really harping upon and focusing on the people who are not following these simple directions that are not that hard for you to get through your head. Sorry, that was my rant. I'm done.
No, I think there's a lot of good points there, Michael. I think, I'd rather ruin my plans. I lost my job to COVID too. I'd rather ruin my plans all day, every holiday for the next year than ruin someone's life by giving them a germ or the virus and having them die. Like, you have to be selfless at a time like this. If you're being selfish, it's just like, it's literally life and death. You can be carrying it and not even know. That's why they have asymptomatic testing. Like,
right.
I don't know how to tell people they should care about other people.
It's difficult for a lot of people, especially this time of year. My grandmother, my grandpa, he has Alzheimer's, and my grandma's only therapy, her only relief, because she's his sole caretaker, is seeing the family and getting together and having those dinners and having holidays. That's what keeps her going. That's what she looks forward to. When she told my mom and I last week that she wasn't going to hold Thanksgiving, she started, the whole speech, the first time in 50 something years, and she was honestly crying. And I felt bad, but again, you have to realize the severity of it. And it's a difficult decision to make, but I feel like it's a necessary decision to make. And we're at such a pivotal point in time where we can either really screw things up right now, or we can turn in the right direction. People are going to be going home. The holidays are going to happen. I know it's unfortunate because you don't know if it's going to be someone's family member's last time having a Christmas dinner or a Thanksgiving meal. But for the good of the greater people and for your own family's sake, safety and sanity, it's a time where we have to make these difficult decisions and put other people in mind. You can't be selfish right now.
What do you think, Elias?
Yeah, I don't want to add too much time here, but I just think another lockdown it's imminent. And I think it's necessary. I mean, if you look at a lot of countries around the world, I've done this quickly and early on, and they are able to open things up. Like New Zealand are completely functioning. They don't have active COVID cases, and they shut things down early. and it's really a shame due to the outliers that are kind of ruining it for the rest of us, that they're going out and spreading it to, within the country, and why our numbers are spiking so much. But I think another lockdown is coming, and I definitely think it needs to happen. Again, Amelia, I'm sorry for your loss. It really is tragic, and how this whole thing has just been totally, swept through us. And it's kind of like we're all standing here like, what happened? And I think, Michael, I think you're right. I think this is a time where we need to, really strap in and just like kind of ride this thing out. Lock down, be safe, look out for one another.
I totally agree with you guys. And Amelia, I'm so sorry what happened to you. And what bothers me the most is that some people that I know personally, they really don't take this seriously. And they really don't. And they think of like the positive side, or like they think of something else that, oh, because I believe in this, like shouldn't be fear of COVID. And it's like I get it, like you don't want communities to shut down, but like you're like, oh, why can't we shut this down, but then we'll have Walmart's in it, but like we need these things be open to help us survive. Like I know it sucks, but like we have to keep each and every one of our lives safe in regards for health, because we don't want to keep losing our loved ones and keep losing our people one after another just for this virus impacting us in this world.
And thank you, everyone, again, for voicing your opinions on this. Amelia, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's a concept that I can't wrap my mind around right now, especially because knowing that when there's someone right now who gets sick, if it's not even COVID, if they have a heart attack or some sort of medical emergency and they end up in a hospital, this whole visitor policy, I mean, you can't necessarily be with that person you've loved at the time they need you the most, and the time, it's awful and it's sad, and this is why we need to get this under control. It's unexcusable that we've gone this far and we're still going at it. But I will end that topic because that was heavier than the first one we talked about. But anyway, this has been great. As always, I want to give a special thanks to Mr. Elias and Amelia, of course. Thank you for coming again. We'll probably see Amelia next week for all we know. And Elias, if the audience likes you, you might be back too. It's really a toss-up, but we always enjoy having guests. And Macy, Lionel, Brian, always some great research, great advice on all these topics, great input. Everyone appreciates it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us. Wear a mask, distance yourself. Have a happy holiday season, even though we're going to see you next week. And we will see you next week. Take care.
Be safe.